All right, let's do this on the day. Let's do it now. Do it live.
Do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fuck it, let's do it live. Ah! Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing,
And I'm Chloe Stebbing.
and we are your weekly rundown of what we're watching, which may become what you're watching. And we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on stevestebbing.ca. And Chloe, I just had the worst weekend health-wise. Like the family health-wise just like falling apart around me before I eventually caught the sickness and stuff. So I feel what your 2 weeks prior to last episode was like. Like
Yeah.
I feel some of that, but it's lesser for me because you're in charge of your household. So it must be so much harder for you.
I'm okay when I'm sick. Like, typically, I can just power through it.
But I mean, you guys get cramps and periods and all that kind of stuff, and childbirth and all this
Yeah, we're
other
just
shit.
used to
So
dying all the time, so.
yeah, that's exactly the cannon fodder of life is being a
Jesus.
woman. Honestly, the longer I get into my life, the more I appreciate women and the more I look at dudes and I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, let's get off of societal cliches and shit
Society.
and culture and brutal gender norms, and let's move on to what's fresh for your eyeballs. That's right. This week, I think I was kind of doomy about this last week, and I mean, I feel like there was good reason. You put up the Rotten Tomato score for this, but it is the reteaming of Robert Zemeckis, Tom Hanks, and Robin Wright. This is Here.
A generational story about families and the special place they inhabit, sharing in love, loss, laughter, and life. Starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Paul Bettany, and Kelly Riley. Written and directed by Robert Zemeckis.
I mean, I love every cast member of those four. Like like Paul Bettany is a guy that I've loved for a long time. Kelly Riley is killing it on Yellowstone, but I enjoyed her before that. And Robin Wright is Robin Wright, and Tom Hanks is Tom Hanks. Like these are all kind of wins, but this is Zemeckis doing the Image Movers thing where he does the mocap stuff, and it all takes place in one location, the living room of this one house. But also there was the beginning starts off with dinosaurs and the Big Bang and everything, and near this area, Benjamin Franklin's cousin or nephew, his house was there. It looks across, like, is across the street from this house. So it was like an original colonial, and but in the camera never moves. It's always static in one spot. So meaning that this family, I mean, starting with Paul Bettany, a war vet, and his wife, Kelly Riley, they have a couple of kids. One of them is Tom Hanks' character that grows up and ends up living in the house as well, like generational living, right? But so there's life events that they're moving through, weddings, childbirth, like all this stuff. And a majority of them are happening in this room, in this same room. There's a modern story of a black family that moves into the house after presumably the family sells, and their whole story feels so shoehorned in. I mean, there's a whole Christmas conversation about what to do when you're pulled over by the cops,
What?
and
Oh, come on.
coming from
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Robert Zemeckis and co-writer Eric Roth. Eric Roth wrote Dune, the first Dune movie.
Yeah.
Writes this movie, which is so shoehorned, cliched, predictable, with the corniest dialogue I've seen in a movie in a really, really long time. I felt like I was done with this movie 10 minutes in, and it's an hour 44. It felt punishing. And even that CG, that Image Movers, like everything CG, doesn't even look very good. There are scenes, because there's a whole storyline with an indigenous couple, like before before the colonial mansion is built and everything, that their whole love story happens within this forest setting. And it looks literally like two people standing against a green screen of like lush field and everything. Like it does not look good on the big screen at all. I don't know how this moved from conception at Universal to the big screen. I don't know. I
Universal has
really
been
don't know.
dropping it. Like I swear,
Yeah.
like I said this when I first came on the show that like Universal is trash now. Like
Hmm.
I haven't seen something good from Universal since like
Abigail.
Jurassic World. A-
Abigail.
Abigail was
Abigail
okay.
is. I think Abigail is Universal. I think
Okay, well they
there's
got
there.
one in the last like
Yeah,
6 years.
there's yeah, there is very few and far between when it comes to some of their films. This one is such a dire miss. Um, that I feel like if anyone had a mic on me, they just constantly would hear "Pff, like literally. I just felt like I was always doing that, and I don't know if it's not the biggest argument against generational living that I've ever seen on a movie before. It is this one, which being a person that's currently experiencing it, it's not that bad. So I don't know. I and it's funny because Tom Hanks went on Conan O'Brien's podcast and said that critics were being cocksuckers over this movie, his literal words. And I don't want to
Chill,
be
dude.
regarded as a cocksucker, Tom, but it was I did not like your movie. I did not like your movie at all. I can't even pull a good thing out of it. I just did not like it. So the next two in the Fresh for Your Eyeballs this week are both documentaries and both incredible ones, and ones that I might see in the running for Oscars this year. First up is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story.
Reeves' rise to becoming a film star follows with a near fatal horse riding accident in 1995 that left him paralyzed from the neck down. After the accident, he became an activist for spinal cord injury treatments and disability rights. Starring Christopher Reeve, Dana Reeve, Alexandra Reeve Gibbons, Matthew Reeve, and Will Reeve. Written and directed by Ian Bonhote and Peter Etigui. Etigui. Uh, gooey. Something's
Let's go
gooey.
with that. Gooey. Something gooey. This I knew because this is an HBO documentary. I talked a little bit last week about that Getting Lost documentary. It didn't feel like an HBO documentary. This is an HBO documentary and it feels like an HBO documentary. It goes deep into Reeves' life with the help of his kids and with archival footage of his wife Dana as well, who passed away shortly after Christopher died. I think a year after his funeral, she was diagnosed with cancer, and then she was pretty much gone, like right after that. It is a tragically sad story in some regards. Obviously, the accident, but it's also hugely inspirational about how he persevered to still have an acting career, even direct a film. Um, shepherd some science to the forefront like stem cell research, which is now such a huge part of not just regular medical science but sports science. Like it's being used across the globe at this point right now. Like it's a big deal that he really pushed for, but also gave some things that I had no idea. I had no idea that him and Robin Williams were best friends,
Oh.
like best friends. Robin gave a eulogy at Christopher's funeral, which they play in the movie, and Robin's still Robin. Robin's still hilarious, but you can tell that he is so deeply sad. And then they cut to an interview, like for the documentary interview with Glenn Close, another friend of Christopher's, and she says, "I've never seen in my entire life to this day a sadder man than Robin was that day." And she goes, "And I fully believe if Chris was still here, Robin would still be here." And that like hit me like a freight train because I'm such a big fan of Robin Williams and always will be. He is like the funny uncle that we all share. Like there's
Hmm.
just something about Robin Williams that is collectively great, and I not everybody. I'm not going to lump everybody in, but there's a lot of us Robin Williams fans out there. And to the stature of Chris Reeves, both as an able-bodied man and as a disabled man, is the imprint is still the same, and this film is does an incredible job of showing that. And I think it's going to be, I think once award season really kicks off, this movie is going to get a lot of talk. All right, let's move to the next documentary. This one, kind of true crime ish, but definitely there's a lot of trigger warnings and sensitive material disclaimers before this documentary even starts. It's called Black Box Diaries.
Journalist Shiori Ito investigates her own sexual assault, seeking to prosecute the high profile offender. Her quest becomes a landmark case exposing Japan's outdated judicial and societal systems. Directed by Shiori Ito.
Yeah, so she directs her own film on her trying to get justice about a sexual assault that is done by a high ranking official that is close friends with Prime Minister Abe at the time. And it just shows how far back the laws that protect women have, like, how far back that they were put in stone and hadn't been changed. Women in Japan don't come forward with accusations or anything like that because they immediately become ousted, they become pariahs, they become the enemy of the public as soon as they speak their truth. And I mean, in 2024, or even in the last 10 years of when this happened, this isn't the world anymore. Like, we need people to be protected on a level of at least equality. And it's so brutal to watch what Ito goes through in just trying to find a semblance of resolve for herself. And I was really, really fascinated by this movie and angered by this movie because even at the end of it, with the truths put out there, there's no justice. Things don't, there's no change. There's no tidal wave of reform that's going to come for women in Japan. There just needs to be more like Ito, sadly, speaking their truth, speaking their stories, making them come to light.
Yeah.
But when the judicial system is against you, lawyer system is against you, the media is against you, and the government's against you, what do you do? So
Yeah.
it's harsh, but this film is, especially in today's day and age, so vital. And I think it's required watching. To be honestly, I think it's a really, really solid film and executed so well. All right, let's move on to some home discs. What's going on Blu-ray? That's right, on the Blue this week, and you can also stream this one on Shutter. But I really like this dude's first film. It's called Caveat, which is on Shutter right now. But I'm liking this guy's work, and with this film, which got a lot of acclaim this year, I think he's going places. This is Oddity.
A psychic medium attempts to uncover the truth behind her sister's murder at the site of the crime. Starring William Lee, Carolyn Bracken, Tata Murphy, Caroline Menton, Jonathan French, and Steve Wall. Written and directed by Damian McCarthy.
Yeah, this movie. It's just one of those quiet horror films, but it's in the subtlety and the shadow and the unused part of the frame that Cole McCarthy really brings this story to life. Carolyn Bracken plays two characters. She plays both the murder victim and the sister, the psychic sister.
Okay.
And the two very, very, very different performances. But the psychic sister, like, she's blind. Objects in her hand kind of give her the story of what's going on, but she brings a gift to her sister's boyfriend, who's still living at the house where her sister was murdered, but now has a new relationship. So she decides to bring this present in a crate, and what it is a big wooden doll with it looks like a screaming face on it.
I don't want that.
Oh, it's the creepiest looking prop in a horror movie recently, I think. It's so fascinatingly well done, and a lot of this film is, like I said, watching stuff in the background, or when the shot changes, something might in the background might be a little different. There's, like, subtle things to this that make it really good. There's a reveal on the sister's storyline that is probably one of the creepiest scenes all year. Just beautifully well done, and some really really stylish gore in this film for a couple sequences. I think Oddity, if you're a horror fan, Oddity is a must see. It's one of those ones you like. Once you we're getting to near the end of the year now, right? So you got to like
Yeah.
start ticking off the ones that you haven't seen. Oddity's got to be on that list because it's just so well constructed. And the last shot, one of my favorites of the year. Just such a beautiful and karmatic last shot. Like it's just wrapped up in a nice little bow, and I dug that a lot. So Oddity is one of my favorites this year for sure.
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight then.
Yeah, watch Oddity, then throw me a text once you finish and tell me what you think. All right, I'm gonna bring up something that's a little bit older now, but I finally got around to it. It's just so freaking long. It really
That's
is long,
that's
and
what's been putting me off. Yeah.
yeah. And to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the franchise to begin with, but it's Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Coriolanus Snow mentors and develops feelings for the female District 12 tribute during the 10th Hunger Games, starring Tom Blythe, Rachel Zegler, Hunter Schafer, Jason Schwartzman, Peter Dinklage, Josh Andres Rivera, and Viola Davis. Directed by Francis Lawrence.
I'm gonna start this off with the big thing right away. This is my favorite one in the series, I think.
Really?
I I actually like this one quite a bit. I like the aesthetic they're doing. It's kind of like a mishmash of 60s, 70s kind of aesthetic because this is like you said in the write up for it. It's like the 12th Hunger Games, so it's like
10th, yeah.
very very early 10th Hunger Games. So it's really really early in that history. And Tom Blythe, I thought was actually quite entertaining as Coriolanus Snow, which is who Donald Sutherland plays in the trilogy or quadrilogy, I guess, because Mockingjay became two movies. Yeah, Tom Blythe is actually really, really solid in it. The action is really entertaining. Some of the Hunger Games battles are really well shot. I like all the drone stuff that they're doing in it because it almost feels like this version of it is a way more low pro and just kind of centralized to one arena. I thought that was really cool. I dig. I don't mind Rachel Zegler. I think she's well cast in this film. I think that she her character makes sense in this. Uh Not utilized enough, but Hunter Schafer is fucking amazing in everything she does. So I'm
Yes.
always a big fan to see her. And yeah, just they could have used her more. And yeah, it is bloated. This movie is like 226, 236 or something like that. It's long. It's long. And I think most of the Hunger Games movies were like roughly 2 hours or maybe a little bit more. This
Yeah.
one's just like you can feel that it's quite a bit longer. So I was kind of glad to watch it on Blu-ray and not in theaters like I was originally going to do. But yeah, I'm surprised to say that I like this the most of all those Hunger Games movies. So there's reason enough to watch it
Yeah.
in installments because it's long.
Yeah. I mean, like I initially clung really hard to the Hunger Games saga because it came out in like when did the first movie release? Like
Yeah, like
2012?
something like that. Yeah,
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 so
roughly
like
around then.
I was a preteen, prime audience. So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
for like 6 years this franchise had like such a hold on me. But yeah, like when I saw this one come out, I was like still like
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
the,
They're
the
trying again. They're trying to.
yeah,
It's like a
like the
revival.
preteen in me really wants to watch it, but then I'm like, these movies are such a commitment. So,
They really
I
are.
mean,
They
at
really
least
are.
knowing that it's good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and it looks like $1 billion. Like they did such a good job of production design and everything. And yeah, it's got a little lull points, and I thought there's some stuff in the ending that I was like, "The fuck?" Like, And largely Peter Dinklage's character, who is the architect of the Hunger Games, his character is so annoying. It's so annoying. I really don't like his character in it, but he's just like he's got a vendetta against the Snows. And so he's always playing this conniving, like, we're gonna get you, Snow. Your snow will be falling, and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, enough, dude. Enough. Let's hit up some classics before we finish the Blu-rays off. The first one is the Blu-ray upgrade of Swingers.
A wannabe actor has a hard time moving on from a breakup, but he is lucky to have supportive friends. Starring Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn, Ron Livingston, Patrick Van Horn, Alex Desert, and Heather Graham. Directed by Doug Liman.
And written by not Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau, based on their experiences coming up in Hollywood. And this is 1993, 1994. So Vince and John have baby faces. They are so young in this movie. Vince is tall and skinny. Like, and this is what got him. This movie is what got him Lost World,
Okay.
Jurassic Park Lost World, because he got to be the action hero in that one.
Hmm.
But this movie, to quote the movie, paraphrase the movie, this movie is so money and it knows it. It's such a great rewatch. It's such a snappy script. I mean, it's super misogynistic. Like, it is definitely of a time. It is one of those bros in Vegas movies, but
Hmm.
the positivity of Vince Vaughn's character just makes this movie explode. It's just all the pretty babies out there, just like the way he talks and everything. I absolutely adore Vince Vaughn in this movie. He makes the whole film for me. And to see that this is not just the launching point for Vince and John, but also Doug Liman as well, who went on to make a lot of great films, including Edge of Tomorrow, Jumper. I'm not going to say Jumper is a great movie, but American Made. There's a lot of great Doug Liman movies out there. Born Identity. I mean, he's got a lot of great work, but this is the starting pit for these guys, and it's a movie that's aged well, in my opinion. And the wife had never seen it before, and she ended up liking the movie as well. So the fact that it can make it 30 years and still be good, that's pretty crazy to me. Speaking of something also kind of relevant as well, I also got to check out my Blu-ray copy of The China Syndrome.
A reporter finds what appears to be a cover up of safety hazards at a nuclear power plant, starring Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, and Michael Douglas. Written and directed by James Bridges.
And so, yeah, I mean, this is basically about an averted meltdown that goes public. And so you got big corporation, big nuclear trying to cover it up. They're trying to use Jack Lemmon's character, one of the factory foremans, as like the fall guy, the patsy. And Jane Fonda is a reporter with her cameraman, which is Michael Douglas, very young Michael Douglas, because this is the late 70s. I think this is 76, 75, or 76.
Wow.
And Jane Fonda is like a fluff piece reporter that sees
Okay.
this as her big break. So finally, like, because this film is so crazily relevant, because it's also about media suppression as well. Like, they're trying to use the media to curtail, to circumvent the truth so that they can get something more cushy out to the viewing public. And it's also a movie that that message could also be misconstrued to being like, oh, the media are part of it, which is just like a really bad area that we're in right now, where not just the bad journalists or the bought off journalists, but all journalists have become targets now in this world.
Yeah.
And I grew up and still believe that good journalism is still massively required in this world. And if we keep calling everything fake news, then that's going to strangle that shit to death.
Yeah.
And we need stuff like the China Syndrome to be the cautionary tale still. We still need to hold the lessons that these movies give us, um, especially now, especially after the events of last week. We have to be way, way, way more vigilant, especially with the news that we take in.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
we need to start trusting some reporters.
Yeah.
So it's just what it comes down to. I don't want to keep getting on a political soapbox here, but it just is. It just is what it is. And if we can't use our own show to do that, then what the hell are we here for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna shy away from being political on our show because we don't
No,
need crazy woman hating gay bashers watching us. So,
no,
you
no.
know,
I live for the queer community. My youngest is part of it. So,
hmm
you know,
yeah.
and
I mean, like,
and
I'm biased, but like, I'm
and then you're
in
you're
a
part of it
in
too.
a
You're
very committed relationship with a man, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still a
But
bi
you're
woman. That
still
doesn't that
you're
doesn't
still
erase my identity. So,
no, you're still part
yeah,
of the queer community. We don't know, your kids are still young. We don't know where they come out in the community, and we want them to be protected.
yeah,
Want their
exactly.
rights to be intact, So yeah, it's scary times, but we just got to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what's going on in the streaming stuff? The streaming pile for this week. I think I made a slight mention of this to Chloe when she was talking about how disappointed she was in American Horror Stories, and I was like, maybe you should try this one because I'm enjoying it so far. It's on Disney Plus through FX, but it's called Grotesquerie.
A detective and a nun investigate a series of heinous crimes that seem personal, while grappling with personal issues and uncovering a sinister web that raises more questions than answers. Starring Niecy Nash Betts, Courtney B. Vance, Nicholas Alexander Chavez, Michaela Diamond, Raven Goodwin, Leslie Manville, and Travis Kelsey. Created by Ryan Murphy, John Robin Bates, and Joe Bacon. Available on Disney Plus.
I know that Ryan Murphy has hurt you a bunch of times before. I know that I know it's tough. I
Yeah.
really do. I know it's tough. I also started. I'm way behind, but I also started watching Dahmer.
Okay. With Evan
The
Peters?
monster. Yes, yes,
Okay.
that one. Um, I don't. I didn't. The thing I'm okay, and I know we just came off of like being queer positive, but there's something about Ryan Murphy's sensationalism
That's
that
what I've heard.
always seems to detract stuff from me. And there's stuff in Dahmer that has already done that to me because I didn't, or unless it's completely true that Dahmer preyed on the gay crowd. I don't know. I don't know enough about Jeffrey Dahmer to
He
get
did. Yeah.
he did. Okay, so
Yeah,
he
because
preyed on that community.
he was gay and he didn't like he hated the fact that he was gay, so
Okay,
he killed gay men. And
okay,
but
so
also
this
kept their bodies. So, I don't
yes,
know.
yes, and ate some of them. But so
Yummy.
okay, so this adds up. That said, Grotesquerie doesn't feel like it has any of that filter on it.
Okay.
Grotesquerie is very straightforward. It has that American horror story style to it. But also this one reminded me a little bit of the scare season of Them. Um in its execution, especially because
Okay.
I think they're both 90s set. Um, and I have more to talk to you off air about them, but it's another talk. Um, but Niecy Nash Betts is really great. I like that she has this mousy, complete weirdo of a nun, a young nun that wants to help out with this case. The murder scene in the first scene is fucking disturbing. It's like a Thanksgiving scene with like family all sitting around the table with body parts missing and shit like that. Like it's fucking crazy looking. And they boil a baby. It's nuts. It's absolutely
Boiled
nuts.
baby.
It's definitely it's pushing it's pushing boundaries for sure. Um, but I mean, it's Ryan Murphy. It's kind of what he does. But I'm
Yeah.
digging it so far. I think the style's really great. They really love purple in the show, which I think is interesting. And I'm not quite finished it yet, so I will bring it back to the show once I'm done. But I'm enjoying it so far. All right, let's move to a very different type of show. This is more sports minded, kind of like Welcome to Wrexham was last week. This is Sprint.
Follows athletes from all around the world and dives inside the minds of those top athletes who practice to become the world's fastest person. It, it provides an insider's perspective on the high stakes and mental toughness of sprinters, available on Netflix.
So I only popped this on because the Olympics just happened this year, and while I was at work, I would have like a widget on the bottom of the screen, and I would just like watch events. And running was one that kept popping up a lot, so I was watching a lot of the sprint competitions and everything. So I am like I know who like Noah Lyles is, Gabby Thomas, Shakari Richardson. Like I know who these runners are. But to get the human stories behind them. I mean, Noah Lyles is he operates like he's some kind he's like a superstar. Like he dresses flashy, he's got all the gold, he's got jewelry on, all this kind of stuff. Always sunglasses on with his head high, like he's walking around with an ego, right?
Right.
And that was evident during the Olympics as well, because he's said some pretty inflammatory shit during the Olympics. He's kind of comes off as an arrogant asshole, but he is him and Usain Bolt are the fastest men in the world. And they even have Usain Bolt on here. And it's like kind of like fascinating thing because both of these runners are the fastest men in the world, but they're both two of the slower runners off of the start. So
Mm.
meaning everyone's kind of blown up and they get enough momentum that they breeze by everyone halfway through and then through to the end, which is crazy. That's like roadrunner shit.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to see the closest that we have to superheroes and what their preparation is into it. What's the science behind it? What is the sports science behind it? How do you
Right.
coach this? Like there's a lot of interesting aspects to it. They just launched a second season, but I'm still kind of cruising through the first one. But I love a good sports docuseries, so this one's really good so far, and especially something that I don't really know a lot about. I like kind of educating myself about that kind of stuff. All right, so let's move to network television. What the hell? For a new Doctor series, this is Brilliant Minds.
Dr. Oliver Wolf, a gifted neurologist, applies his unconventional approach to treating puzzling psychological cases. This sounds like Dr. House, but with mental stuff. Okay.
Yep, yep.
Starring Zachary Quinto, love that guy, Tamberla Perry, Ashley Lathrop, Alex McNichol, Ari Krebs, Spencer Moore II, Teddy Sears, and Donna Murphy. Created by Michael Grassi, playing on NBC.
Yeah, I like Zachary Quinto too. That's why I watched the show. That's why I pick up this show. I'm like, okay, Zachary Quinto's doing. Oh, okay, he's going back to NBC from Heroes to do a series. Okay, okay. And yeah, the description, like the just doctor led, like one doctor led procedurals have not changed. There's no difference between this doctor with a quirk. Okay, House, he's an asshole and he's got a cane. Good doctor, he's got autism. He's got Asperger's and doesn't know social cues and it makes him an asshole. And then Zachary Quinto in this series is he's so brilliant that he's going so outside of the box that no other hospital contain him, and there's all this red tape that is stopping him from doing his job, and he's just trying to save lives. And it's so heavily cliched and such a bummer to waste a guy with the talents of Zachary Quinto in a show that just feels like he's slumming it, making an easy network paycheck from Comcast and NBC, and that will inevitably get canceled. I
Right.
mean, Grey's Anatomy is, I don't even know why it's still going, but it's still going for one more a year. There's other doctor shows out there. There's shows that have come and gone. There's like 4 seasons of them and they got canceled and they're still streaming on like a high ranking number, like that New Amsterdam. There's 4 seasons of that show after it got canceled. It got canceled like 2 years ago. It's still one of the top ranking like Netflix streaming shows. It's like
Chicago Med is still going too, isn't it?
Chicago Med's still going. But like of the singular like Doctor House or like any of the ones that I brought up here, they don't last. I don't see Brilliant Minds being one that's going to break through because there's nothing about it that screams original or must see or that there's something good coming. Really, it's just kind of is,
That sucks.
which is a bummer. It's a bummer for Zachary Quinto. Maybe we can get another Star Trek movie. He'd go back to being Spock for at least one more time. So well, we've blown through pretty much everything. So what am I going to bring to you next week? Well, I think last week I already kind of basically blurted out that I was going to bring you Heretic.
Hmm.
That I was going to take here, add 3 letters to it. We're going to do Heretic. The good news is the reviews for Heretic are so freaking good. And that it is such a theology conversation on religion as well in it, and a very talk heavy movie. Because this weekend, for After the Credits with Marina, Bill, and Melissa, a podcast I do with them, Marina said that it was just massively talky, just like
Wow.
from beginning to end. It just movie does not shut up, and
Okay.
it's super interesting, and it feels like a roundtable discussion at like a university theology discussion, and I'm
All
so
right.
in for that. I'm so in
Yeah.
for that. The trailer has me hook, line, and sinker. Like, I'm so into this film already. I really like Beck and Woods. I mean, and it's funny because Marina brought this up, so I'll credit her with this. It's funny that they started with a film, A Quiet Place, which has how much dialogue in that movie? How much actual dialogue is in that movie?
Maybe
Like
like
maybe a few lines.
yeah, like less than a page.
Yeah. And to Heretic, which is just nonstop talking.
They got to make up
That's
for it.
fucking wild. That's so wild. And this is also their first film after 65, which is a movie I actually really liked. It's dumb as all hell, but I really dug it with Adam Driver. I mean, it's Adam Driver against dinosaurs. Like, it's
Right.
dumb, but it's fun. It's so much fun. But Heretic looks like to be the boost. There's a lot of great talk about Hugh Grant in this film, playing your villain. Also, it has her name Sophie Thatcher. She plays Natalie, on the young version of Natalie on Yellow Jackets, and Chloe East is in this, and she was in The Fablemans, which is a really, really, really great movie. So I'm excited about it, because the week after will be Wickadator or Glicked. I don't know what to call it. It's I'm seeing Wicked and then I'm seeing Gladiator too, but like Barbieheimer or Oppen Barbie, we have to Frankenstein the names together. But anyway, Heretic, that's next week. And that brings us to the end of this episode. You can find me on Twitter for now, Instagram, Letterbox, and Threads at the Stevel Dead. Also at the Stevel Dead on Blue Sky.
You can find me on Letterboxd at HoneyBunChloe.
And you can find all of the episodes of this show on stevestebbing.ca. You can look my name or the Stevel Dead up on YouTube, and you will find all of the episodes for the show as well. And we're on shiftheads.ca. You can also hear me every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift on the iHeartRadio network and on News Talk 1010. And that finishes up our list for this week. We got to fill it up again. So until then, bye bye.